G'day viewers, this is Troy from Troy's Visual Arts channel. Here's my latest update on my Iconoscope camera project. Since the last video, I've installed the lens racking system. It was a bit of a pain in the arse job, as I pretty much was putting the right measurements on both sides, and then I put it in, and then it still looked lopsided. It's probably because of the imperfections in the way I did the metal casing. But anyway, I sort of went by eye and lifted this side up a little bit so it looked about straight. Then I fastened it in and kind of moved forward a little bit. The lens racking system kind of moved forward on this side a little bit, so it's slightly lopsided, but it's just going to have to do, as it'll be a messy job to try and fix that up. But anyway, it's good enough. The lens pretty much looks relatively straight. I had to also move the yoke so I can get a sweet spot for the focal distance between the lens and the photosensitive plate in the Iconoscope tube. Oh yeah, there's also the height as well, because I didn't quite get the height right when I positioned this lens racking system in. I wanted to get the middle of the lens to be in line with the middle of the photosensitive plate on the Iconoscope tube, and when I had the tube down a bit, it wasn't quite in line with it. Still might not be quite in line with it, but the image is pretty much focused across the photosensitive plate, so I guess that's good enough, and we'll just have to do. Anyhow, other things I've done with this metal enclosure, I've put the floor mounts on there to mount on the floor of the main camera enclosure. So those bolts were pretty much off the old enclosure, and I've pretty much transcribed them to the new metal enclosure, and they're exactly positioned and fit nicely into the floor of the main camera enclosure. I've also added the fastening bolts on the right side so the enclosure can be fastened to the main enclosure cover of the camera. Anyway, things I've got to do next. I need to put a cover on top. I initially was going to put a hatch on here, but it's not practical because this is going to be sitting inside of the main enclosure anyway, and having two hatches is just not exactly practical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 90-degree angled cover over the top that goes from roughly about here to roughly down here, and I'm going to pretty much bolt it on, so make it so it bolts on. And yeah, next I'm going to also drill a hole here so I can run the plug through to the pins of the Iconoscope tube, and I'm going to have to put a panel on here, but the problem is I'm going to have to make it so I can easily do it up and undo it, because whenever I want to plug the tube in and unplug the tube, I'm going to have to take the panel off. Also, I'm going to put some paneling, put a panel with a circular cut in the middle so it goes over the lens system. So they're the plans to do with this Iconoscope tube shielding enclosure. I might actually even consider putting some metal going from the middle of the floor of this enclosure up across the yoke mounts, so I can get even better noise shielding. So we pretty much want this tube to be surrounded with metal, so it shields noise from going to the tube and causing a noisy output. I'll work it out anyway. I'll find the most practical solution to get this camera tube nicely shielded from external noise. Yeah, for the back here, I'm going to have to make the 90-degree panel to stick out a little bit and have some cushioning because of this little dike here sticking out. Don't want this to be pressing against the metal, because any vibration will may cause tiny fractures in the tube, and then the tube will go to air, which is something I definitely don't want to happen. So I'll have to work out a plan on spacing the panel back a bit. Alrighty, well that's the latest update on my Iconoscope camera project in making the metal shielding enclosure for the Iconoscope tube. Stay tuned for the next update. This is Troy from Troy's Visual Arts channel signing out.